Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Rams pulling out another win, but it was a tale of two halves, as they just barely beat the Indianapolis Colts, as they almost let that one get away, but they got the win. And the Chargers got the win, but that too was also a little close for comfort. But they've won 2 in a row as they have a bye week, which means they can't hurt me. Thank goodness. And the Dodgers begin their quest for redemption in the playoffs as they have their opponent finalized following the wild card round. And Angel City sadly lost a match. Yes, it feels like it's been forever since Angel City last lost a match following the bringing up of Becki Tweed following the firing of the previous head coach. But Wave FC has punched their ticket to the NWSL playoffs with a huge win over the Portland Thorns, and LAFC bounced back from their previous loss as they stomped all over Minnesota. And we have a lot more Southern California sports to get into, such as USC narrowly beating Colorado. What in the world is that? And San Diego State football lost badly again. All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 152 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be going live without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on formerly known as Twitter, X, Instagram, and on TikTok at IE Sports Radio. You can also follow us on Facebook. All you just have to do is type in the word IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar, and then boom, like us on Facebook, and then that's how you're able to follow us and get all your sports updates. Also, we have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, for your sports news, our blog, our Hall of Fame, our Fans of the Month, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as this one, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. Because for the past 9 years and counting, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit www.planetjerky.net and place your order. Follow Jerky on Instagram at Planet Jerky, and that's how you're able to follow them on social media. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that is on a whole other planet. And you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on X at SoCal Show IESR. And you could also follow me at Teran Rodriguez 1 on X at Teran Rodriguez 1, which is my Twitter handle for Teran Rodriguez. I mean, if you want to see me complain about the Chargers and whatnot, which is something I do on a basis, but I digress. All right, let's get on into the SoCal sports action. So we obviously have to start off with the NFL just because NFL is king, and yeah. So in terms of chronological order, we have to start off with the Rams. So this Rams game, okay, this was a weird Rams game. So it looked like the Rams were pretty much going to kick butt and take names, as they actually jumped out to a 20-0 lead. They actually jumped out to a 14-0 lead, as Teran Williams continues to have an amazing season, as he has been bullying everybody in terms of the run game. And the fact that he swooped in and took that running back one spot from Cam Akers, who is now currently with the Minnesota Vikings, it's working wonders for the Rams. The Rams kind of cooled off in the second quarter as they had to settle for field goals, as Brett Maher kicked field goals of 40 yards and 54 yards, and suddenly it was 20-0 in favor of the Rams. Meanwhile, the defense really stifled the Rams. It looked like the Rams were back in their Super Bowl run form, or the Super Bowl season form. And then Brett Maher added a 51-yard field goal to put the Rams up 23-0, and it looked like the Rams were basically just going to cruise to victory. But the Colts have a very talented quarterback in Anthony Richardson, as he found Mo Alley Cox for a 35-yard touchdown, and they completed the 2-point conversion to Zach Moss. So suddenly the Rams lost their shutout, and it was 23-8. Then Anthony Richardson in the fourth quarter scored off of a 1-yard rushing touchdown, and suddenly the Rams were only up 25-15, which was not good. I was a little worried about this, as I forgot to mention in the first quarter, in the second quarter, the Rams missed a field goal, which could have put them up 23-0, and eventually with that other field goal, that could have put them up 26-0. And then Matt Stafford also threw an interception after the Colts touchdown. But they did have they did force a turnover on downs against the Colts. However, the Rams missed a field goal, which was no bueno, and it was just a whole punt fest after the Colts' second touchdown in the third quarter. And then eventually, it was not looking too good. But eventually, I was getting a little ahead of myself. The Colts got their touchdown to pretty much the go-ahead touchdown in regulation, as it was a 13-play, 83-yard touchdown that took up 5 minutes and 33 seconds. And the scary thing is that the Colts went for the 2-point conversion and got it, which. Oh, that's fun times right there for the Rams, as Anthony Richardson found Michael Pittman, and suddenly what was once 23-0 is now tied at 23-23. Fortunately for the Rams, they and the Colts punted the rest of the way, so the game had to go into overtime. And fortunately for the Rams, they got the ball first, and they eventually were able to shut the door on the Colts, as they eventually had Matthew Stafford lead a 8-play, 75-yard drive, as Matthew Stafford found Puka Nacua for the go-ahead touchdown, and that's how the Rams were barely able to win. And fortunately for the Rams, they were playing the Colts and not someone much more talented. So consider the Rams lucky, as that was not a pretty victory by any means. So for the Rams, it was about as ugly as a win should get. And honestly, again, they could have done so much better. Matthew Stafford only had one touchdown pass, which was the one in overtime. He had one pick. He threw for 319 yards, which wasn't bad. And the Rams didn't let Anthony Richardson go ultimately off. But it could have been a little bit better. But Teran Williams was the bright spot. 2 rushing touchdowns, 103 rushing yards, while Puka Nacua 163 receiving yards, and that game-winning touchdown only on 9 receptions. So Puka Nacua is going to be big time going forward. And keep in mind, the Rams got him in the 5th round. So Puka is making the case for Offensive Rookie of the Year if he keeps this up. But also, Anthony Richardson could make the case for Offensive Rookie of the Year as well if he keeps great gameplay, because he wasn't bad by any means. The problem is that the Colts got off to such a bad start. If the Colts don't get off to a bad start, I feel the Rams are up a creek without a paddle. So all in all for the Rams, it was a good win, but it could have been so much better than that. But a win is a win. And for the Rams, they needed that win because they had lost 2 in a row. And their next game is going to be a tough one as the Rams return home to SoFi Stadium to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles. Yes, people just call them the Eagles just because reasons. So, yeah, the Eagles, this is the battle of the past 2 NFC champions. And the Eagles just barely beat the Washington Commanders. Just got to throw that out there. The Eagles have kind of been playing down to the wire with some of these opponents. They went down to the wire with the New England Patriots. They also went down to the wire with the Minnesota Vikings. And like I said, last week they went down to the wire, including overtime with the Washington Commanders. So here's my thing. I really think the Rams can win, but you look at that defensive line. The Eagles are so stacked all across the board in terms of their defense. And while the Commanders obviously aren't that great of a team, I just think that this is going to be the get-right game that the Eagles are going to have and the Eagles need. And yes, I would like to see the Eagles suffer their first loss to the Rams. I think that would be a big win for the Rams. However, the thing is, the defense is just not all there. They're just young and inexperienced, and Aaron Donald cannot carry that defense. The good news is for the Rams is that Cooper Kupp will be making his return barring any setbacks. And boy howdy, that is huge for the Rams. And Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, oh man. 2 good wide receivers. 2 really good wide receivers right there. And that is going to be big time right there for that Rams receiver core. And I really can't wait. And Kyren Williams has really developed himself into the leading bell cow. So I'm just going to say this. I really think the Rams have a legit shot at beating the Eagles. But for me, I just don't think they're going to take that next big step. I mean, they did all that they could against the Niners. And the Niners are much better than them. And I feel the Niners are probably the best team in the NFC. Gag. But I will just say, I think the Rams are I think they're just going to fall short to the Eagles. I think the Eagles win, and I don't want to be too harsh on the Rams, but what's a good score? I mean, the Rams only lost by 7 to the Niners, but this is probably going to be the get-right game for the Eagles. I think the Rams lose, let's go 31-27. I think that's a fair score. I think the Rams can put up the numbers. However, I just think when it comes down to that final drive or that crucial drive, I think that defense is just going to swallow up Matthew Stafford. So I expect a high-scoring affair, and I expect the Rams to do everything in their power to hopefully, hence the word hopefully, keep up with the Eagles. And I'm not going to go bold with the Rams this week just because I tried going bold a couple weeks ago when they played the Bengals. Wound up falling flat on their face, which I will never do again. So, as much as I want to pick the Rams this week, I just can't do it. I just don't think they have the horses to keep up with the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, they're nowhere near perfect, and they're nowhere near the team like last year, but I will also just say they're still one of the top teams in the NFC, because the NFC is basically just a two-headed monster with the Niners and the Eagles. Maybe the Lions are starting to bud, and the Cowboys are also kind of that kind of that creeping on a come up. But honestly, I feel the Niners and Eagles are on a crash course to face one another in the NFC Championship. Meanwhile, for the Rams, I'm just hopeful that they can get their you-know-what together and maybe, hence the word maybe, sneak into the playoffs. But that's just a pipe dream in my opinion. Alright, but that is going to do it for the Rams. But this was just announced today that Sean McVay said that Cooper Kupp is going to play today, and I think that's great news, and I'm happy that Cooper Kupp is going to be playing. And the Rams need as much firepower as they can get, offensively or defensively. So here's hoping the Rams can make it competitive. I just don't want to see them getting blown out. It would just be so bad. All right, but that is that for the Rams portion of the show. Jumping over to the Chargers. All right, I really wish I could have seen this game right here. But sadly, I didn't. So the Chargers had the honor of hosting, hence the word quote-unquote hosting, I'm sorry, hold on, let me say that again. The Chargers had the honor of quote-unquote hosting Raiders at SoFi Stadium. Yes, I had to do it in that voice. And the Chargers were able to pull out the victory 24-17 against Raiders! Sorry, I will never do that again. But it was a very ugly win. So, in the win, Justin Herbert was still his phenomenal self. Now, he wasn't explosive, but he still had a hand in every touchdown the Chargers had. The first touchdown was what broke the ice for the Chargers, as he had a 12-yard rushing touchdown. It was 7-0 for the Chargers. Raiders got back in it as Aiden O'Connell was their starting quarterback, as Jimmy G was ruled out on Saturday, and Josh McDaniels decided to start Aiden O'Connell over Brian Hoyer, which I think was the best choice, because if he started Brian Hoyer, the Raiders were not going to win. Aiden O'Connell had a 1-yard rushing touchdown, which was actually the Raiders' first rushing touchdown all season, as that tied the score up at 7 apiece going into the second quarter. Then in the second quarter, the Chargers kind of took full charge as Cameron Dicker hit a 33-yard field goal. But Khalil Mack was just on one. I don't know what it is about Khalil Mack facing the Raiders the first time around, but he was out for revenge. He had not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 sacks against the Raiders. And some of them led to fumbles, which was eventually recovered by the defense. So I don't know what kind of violence Khalil Mack woke up to and chose, but I'm just going to say Khalil Mack was a monster against his former team, and that was just straight up phenomenal. And yeah, Raiders, I hope you're happy with trading away Khalil Mack. But anyway, second quarter, Justin Herbert found Keenan Allen for a 7-yard touchdown pass, and then after that, he took it in for a 1-yard rushing touchdown on a 4th and goal try. And thankfully, the tush push was, hence the word was, fairly broken. So suddenly, the Raiders are up 24-7, and y'all are thinking, okay, well, Raiders are down 17. This is going to be a piece of cake for the Chargers, right? No, you don't know the Chargers like most Chargers fans know the Chargers, including myself. So the Chargers offense just went stone cold, and we're not talking about Austin here. I just don't know what happened with the Chargers offense in the second half. Unfortunately for the Chargers, Justin Herbert threw an interception, which is very rare. That was actually his first mistake of the season, or first turnover of the season, as going into that one, he was the only starting quarterback to not turn the ball over. So I hope you're happy, Raiders. I'm glad you managed to pick off Justin Herbert. Cherish it. It's only the second time Justin Herbert's been picked off by the Raiders all time. The other time came against, I forget the guy, Casey Hayward. That's the guy who picked off Justin Herbert the first time around. But Daniel Carlson nailed a 22-yard field goal, and suddenly it was 24-10 in favor of the Chargers going into the fourth quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, Chargers just still could not find their offensive rhythm and flow, and eventually the Chargers allowed the Raiders to score a 1-yard rushing touchdown. Suddenly it was 24-17, and suddenly it was kind of panic time. I was just wondering, why are the Chargers making this a little bit closer for comfort? And then, unfortunately, the Chargers were I think they were still well within their territory. And then they went for it on 4th and 1. And remember how I said the tush-push was very broken? Unfortunately, that was not the case, as the Raiders actually stopped the Chargers as they tried to sneak Justin Herbert in, and sadly, he was stalled out, and the Raiders took over. Fortunately for the Chargers, on the Raiders' final drive, Asante Samuel Jr. managed to pick off Aiden O'Connell as he was trying to find Davante Adams, who really came alive in that second half. Now, here's the thing. Davante Adams had a grand total of, 75 yards? 75 receiving yards? Yeah, 75 receiving yards. He had 0 in the first half and 75 in the second half. I'm no Raider fan, but I'm just going to say, if you're not getting your best receiver going, you're wasting all of what you spent to get him. And I don't know what to tell you, Raiders. You are stupid. And the thing is, Davante Adams didn't even lead the Raiders in receiving yards. That was actually Josh Jacobs. Oh my God, Raiders, I don't know what to tell you. You're dumb! Anyway, back to the Chargers-Raiders. Yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. picked off Aiden O'Connell in the red zone, and I feel that could have been avoided on O'Connell's part had he had one more second, but there was pressure collapsing in the pocket, and then O'Connell threw it to Adams, and then Samuel jumped the passing lane, picked off, and went down to the ground. And I'm just going to say, big W award to Asante Samuel Jr. for going down to the ground and not trying to get extra yardage like Marlon McCree did in that divisional round game against the freaking Patriots, which eventually wound up costing the Chargers a freaking win. Gosh dang it. But yeah. Eventually, the Chargers... I forgot to mention Justin Herbert on that interception. He actually hurt himself. He actually hurt his middle finger on the play. His finger got stuck in one of the Raiders players' helmet, and the poor dude needed his hand wrapped up and taped up. So eventually, he came back in. I think it was his left hand, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't his strong hand. But eventually it was like 3rd and 10, and Justin Herbert threw a deep pass to Joshua Palmer, who got the first down and eventually said check and mate to the Raiders, which was kind of like the first down that put the Raiders to bed when the Steelers played them on Sunday Night Football. But in the end, the Chargers did wind up winning against the Raiders 24-17, but it was a very ugly win. The Chargers got shut out in the second half, which is not acceptable. You just can't get shut out in the second half. You have all these offensive weapons. Yes, you were missing Mike Williams, your first game without Mike Williams. Yes, you didn't have Austin Eckler. But still, you just have to have everyone. And yes, Keenan Allen also came back down to earth after his amazing 200-plus receiving yard performance from last week. But still, yeah, the entirety of the offense was just straight up quiet. As altogether, the Chargers only had 305 yards. Now, it was good. It's good because the Raiders had 264 total yards. And honestly, the Chargers' defense was actually much better than it has been in previous weeks, as Josh Jacobs did not have a big game on the ground. Now, he did convert a 3rd and 18 with a 22-yard pickup. However, Jacobs was only limited to 3.4 yards per attempt and 1.41 yards after contact per attempt. And he actually did not have a single explosive run over 10 yards. So, honestly, the Chargers' run defense, dare I say it, It's improved. I mean, the previous week against the Vikings, they kind of let Alexander Mattison go off a little, but it wasn't like Dalvin Cook from a couple seasons ago. But I will say, it's progressing. 17 points isn't bad. It's certainly not as bad as the 27 points they gave up against Tennessee. And speaking of Tennessee, huge shout out to Davidson Crooks who's in the chat room. He says, what's good? And it's certainly not the 36 points that they gave against the Miami Dolphins. So, Chargers defense is getting slightly better. And like I said, Khalil Mack just had himself a game. He even earned Defensive Player of the Week honors because those 6 sacks were actually a Chargers record in terms of a single game. I think that tied a single game high in terms of Chargers all time. So, very nice job to Khalil Mack, and I'm glad the Chargers were able to basically get him for hardly anything. So, great work to the Chargers. So, the Chargers are on bye this week, which is good. So, the Chargers can't hurt me, and I'm happy about that. However, their next game will not be until Monday, October 16th, when they return to SoFi Stadium to take on the Dallas Cowboys. And Davidson says Mack was great in that game. Oh, yes, he was. Straight up facts right there. And he came in with 0 sacks. And the fact that he registered 6, man, that's amazing. And I, too, hope that he keeps it consistent for the rest of the season, because I think that would be awesome to see Khalil Mack just continuing his strong dominating effort. And him with Bosa, along with Tuli Pelotu, that's scary right there. Those 3 together are just scary. So the Chargers, like I said, they don't play until they take on the Cowboys in week number 6 on Monday Night Football. So I'm hoping it's going to be on ESPN. If they put this game on ABC, which I don't have, surprisingly, due to my television provider, someone's getting dumb of the week, and it's certainly not going to be me. The next few games are kind of going to be tough for the Chargers, maybe to an extent. I mean, the next 2 games are against the Cowboys and at Kansas City. That's a gauntlet right there on its own. And then, to close out October, the Chargers have the Chicago Bears, which just got its first win of the season. And then, that's going to be on Sunday Night Football. And then, the Chargers have another primetime game at the Jets on Monday Night Football. And then they've got the Lions, and then they've got the Packers, and then they've got another. And then the list goes on and on. But we're not going to look too far ahead. And yes, Davidson, I'd have to double check and see, but I don't think I have ABC. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd have to redouble check on either Sling or Paramount Plus. But back to the Chargers, yes, it's going to be a tough one the following weeks, and that is Davidson says get a digital antenna. I may take you upon that, but we'll see. But for the time being, the bye comes at a good time because Justin Herbert hurt his finger, and I think Justin Herbert needs that time to rest and make sure his middle finger does not, get worse. All right, but that's going to do it for the NFL portion of the show. All in all, it was a great week as both LA teams won. Unfortunately, that won't be the case as both LA teams aren't playing. Only one is, but it is what it is. All right, let's jump to some NCAA college football what is it with USC? The previous few weeks, they were actually looking really good, and now they're looking a little as they beat Colorado, which is good. That's the good news. The bad news is they only won by 7. And the thing is, USC was up by as many as I think they were up as many as 27, if my math serves me correct. I was never the sharpest at math, but yes, they were up by as many as 27 points. 27. And this really had me worried. I thought USC was going to blow the doors off of Colorado starting out. They were actually up 21-0 at one point to start the game. But unfortunately, Colorado kind of did this thing called adjusting. Yeah, it was actually in the first half as well, as USC actually led 34-7, and then Shedeur Saunders had a 25-yard touchdown run to basically cut the lead down and give Colorado some sort of momentum. But unfortunately for USC, their defense kind of left the door open. And they didn't just leave it open a crack. They left it wide open, which is not good if you ask me. Eventually, Colorado wound up scoring a whopping... They scored 20 unanswered points, so that 27-point lead was a thing of the past, as it was down to just only 7. And it was panic time for USC, and I couldn't believe this. Fortunately for USC, they were able to recover said onside kick, and funny thing is that Colorado didn't even have a the kick didn't even cross 10 yards. So thankfully, USC special teams didn't even have to go out and do anything. Davidson says USC defense is going to stop them from reaching the playoffs. 100% facts, and Davidson hit it on the head. If USC's defense keeps playing like this, they're straight up not going anywhere. Because that is just straight up sad right there. I understand Colorado's improved. I understand Coach Prime or Deion Sanders. He's done great things for Colorado. However, you see what happened with Colorado the previous week. They got the doors blown off against Oregon. You're telling me USC couldn't blow the doors off them? Really? And you gave up 41? Like, that's just sickening if you ask me. So, and the thing is, I know it's a 9 a.m. game, but you're going to have to get used to this 9 a.m. stuff. And that's not even an excuse, because you jumped out to an early 21-0 lead. So, I don't want to hear the excuses from USC anymore. Unless half of their defense or half of their starting defense was basically out. And I know I have been hearing that Corey Foreman, the former number 1 recruit, I think in like the class of 2021, he is thinking about redshirting, which is making me sad. Anyway, but that's inexcusable. You just can't give up 41 points. That's just bad, dude. Just, no. Top 10 team, my foot. Against an unranked team, I mean, maybe Colorado is good, but still, you compare that game to the Oregon game, and now you have me concerned for USC going forward. Can they really stack up to the Washington, the UCLA, and the Notre Dame, and the Oregon? I'm really concerned going forward. So USC really has to get its you-know-what together, and fast, because USC is also starting to run out of cupcake games. Because after this week, okay, there is one other cupcake game, but after this week and after their game against Cal, they're not going to have any more cupcake games. So this week, USC dropped another spot. So remember how USC was number 5 and then they dropped to number 8 after they let Arizona State hang around? Well, they dropped one more spot as they're now number 9. So the number 9 USC Trojans returned back to the Coliseum to play Arizona at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. So here's the thing for USC. Arizona State is actually improved. If USC is thinking that they're going to just blow the doors off of Arizona, they got another thing coming. Tateroa McMillan is a beast of a receiver, and the dude is only a sophomore. I'm really thinking that USC should maybe play some actual defense instead of just feeling sorry for their opponent. It's like USC jumped out to a 27 point lead in that game against Colorado and then suddenly felt sorry for Colorado and said, you know what, Colorado, you deserve some points. We're sorry we're beating you down and making you look like clowns. No. Like, when you're up big, you keep your foot on the throat. So, for me, I really want USC to have this get-right game, because you want to know who USC has the following week? Notre Dame. And they're playing on national TV, aka ABC, or NBC. And then they've also got Utah, which heaven knows if they're going to have Cam Rising, but you kind of saw what happened with UCLA, even though I don't think UCLA had the offensive line that game. And then you've also got Washington and Oregon in the third and second to last game, and then you've got UCLA to close out the regular season. And that Oregon game is at Oregon. It's in Autzen Stadium. So if you're USC, you kind of actually got to take your opponents a little bit more seriously instead of just fooling around and just thinking, oh, we're up big time. We could just putz around and let them come back and give them some points. No. Play like it's still 0-0. Just, oh my God, USC, just please. It's very frustrating. It was one thing with the Arizona State game, but against Colorado, shame on you, fooled us twice. That ain't happening. Because the offense, Caleb Williams just can't just put up a bunch of numbers all throughout the game, all throughout the entire season. And unfortunately for this past Saturday, Caleb Williams actually got picked off for the first time this season. So I talked about how Justin Herbert had his first turnover of the season. Caleb Williams sadly had his first interception of the season, which made me sad face. But other than that, he had 403 passing yards and 6 passing touchdowns, which was awesome. But also Shedeur Sanders had 4 passing touchdowns and 371 passing yards. And Omarion Miller had 196 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. 196 receiving yards? Jiminy Christmas. Who is covering him? A manatee? Good Lord have mercy. Anyway, so USC against Arizona. I feel USC is going to win this one. There's no doubt in my mind. It's just a matter of how much they win by. Do I dare pick USC to cover this time around? Sure. I think USC wins. I'm trying to do my math correctly here. You know what? Let's go 49-24. I think that's a good, respectable score. I think USC calls off the Dogs once USC goes up by like 30-ish, and then eventually Arizona gets like a few garbage time touchdowns, and then eventually, and hopefully we do get to see Miller Moss in. If we get Miller Moss time, awesome, but if not, then so be it. But I really want USC to have a better game, and if they have a better game defensively, awesome. I'd like nothing more than to see that, just because the last 2 games have really got me concerned. And Davidson said it best: the USC defense is going to stop them from reaching the playoffs, because you can't be letting these unranked teams hang around with you, because the committee is going to say, "Oh, we can't have a team that lets unranked teams hang around with them every single week in the playoffs." So USC's got to learn to finish their food and not play with it. So there you go, USC. You better get back on track in terms of your defense. So as for UCLA, they did not play last week as they had a bye. Kind of needed it, as they will be heading back to the Rose Bowl to take on number 13 Washington State. Now this is going to be a tricky matchup, as Washington State is a perfect 4-0, while UCLA is coming off of that ugly 14-7 loss to Utah, which, if only that pick 6 wasn't called back, then UCLA might have had a better shot at winning. But for UCLA, here's my thing. There's not a whole lot of... there's not a whole lot I could really say for UCLA. I really want them to actually beat Washington State. I think they can. But I will also say UCLA, I know they're much better than what last week dictated, just because I know Utah has a stingy defense. I know it's so tough to win in Salt Lake City, but it's against Washington State, and Washington State actually beat Oregon State, dude. So, and I want to say Washington State also pulled off another win. No, they didn't. It was just against Oregon State. And Washington State also had a bye as well. So both teams are getting some well-deserved rest. So I can't really use the whole rest versus rust thing for Washington State and UCLA. So, look, as much as I want to say UCLA is going to win, and part of me hopes this happens, part of me hopes this doesn't happen, I think Washington State edges out UCLA. But it's going to be close. My thing is for Washington State is I think their experience just kind of outdoes Dante Moore and the entire UCLA team. I think the problem with UCLA is that they kind of have newcomers, and they just don't have the horses to keep up with the experienced teams, such as Utah and eventually Oregon State and eventually Washington State and whatnot. So I think it's going to be close, though. I think Washington State is going to have a tough time putting away UCLA, but in the end, I think the Bruins are just going to fall just a little short to those Cougars, as I have UCLA falling to Washington State. Let's go 20-17. I think that's a respectable score. I think it might be more of a defensive battle just because I feel Washington State, even though they just dropped 38 on... they've dropped 30 or more on every one of their opponents. I think UCLA's defense is going to answer the bell. I mean, UCLA's defense only allowed 14 against a very solid Utah team. And the most UCLA has given up, it was 13 against 14 against Utah. And then there was Coastal Carolina. So I think this is going to boil down to UCLA's defense versus Washington State's offense. And I think Washington State's offense is going to do just enough to pull out the win against those goody little Bruins. But in a year or two, UCLA is probably going to win this matchup if the two play each other again. But that's going to do it for UCLA. Again, if UCLA gets the win, I will gladly eat my crow on the next episode. All right, now let's jump to San Diego State. And do I need to say anything about this? San Diego State got the doors blown off against Air Force. They wound up losing 49-10. So not only did Air Force cover, they straight up gave them a whooping. And they covered the over-under by themselves. I got to go back to Davidson's comment. He says, referring to Lincoln Riley, Lincoln knows that, and then he's probably referring to the defense knowing about how it needs its get-right game. And he says, that should get the fan base mad about that. Yeah, I think USC's defense... I'm just hoping that USC just has a better game and we don't have to have another one of those Charger moments when it comes to a USC football game, because I panic enough about Charger games. I don't need to panic about USC games. Okay, but back to San Diego State. Oh, man. Why did San Diego State even bother showing up? I mean, dang. San Diego State got destroyed by Air Force, 49-10. I knew San Diego State was in a mismatch against Air Force, but holy crap, dude. Like, I don't understand how one can be so bad against Air Force. So, I don't even want to recap this game just because I don't want to see how bad this was. The good thing for San Diego State is that they actually had a lead, believe it or not. The bad thing is that Joshua Nicholson actually caught a touchdown pass from Jalen Maiden, which was awesome. However, Air Force kind of said, okay, you have your brief little lead. Now we take over and kick you into the ground. And Air Force just took it from there. And that was actually all in the second quarter. The first quarter was scoreless, and then second quarter, San Diego State got the party started in terms of its scoring, and then Air Force really started to kick San Diego State into the dirt. And that was basically that. As Air Force said, anything you could do, I could do better. As after that touchdown, Air Force had that touchdown. And then I don't understand how San Diego State could basically straight up lay a goose egg every single time. Next series, they went 3 and out. Eventually, Air Force touchdown. Next series, San Diego State got a first down on their first play, and then they had to punt. Air Force eventually gets a touchdown. But at the end of the second quarter, San Diego State did something really special. Their kicker, Jack Browning, actually kicked a 61-yard field goal, which is the longest in San Diego State history, and it's the longest in Mountain West history. So, good job to Jack Browning on accomplishing that feature. However, it was 21-10 at halftime. So while that was a crowd pleaser that Jack Browning was able to boot a 61-yard field goal, San Diego State fans were like, neat, we kicked a long field goal, but field goals are only worth 3 points. We're still down 11. And it just got worse as the game progressed. Air Force got a touchdown on its first drive of the second half. Then San Diego State punted. Air Force got the ball back. Touchdown. And then on the first play of San Diego State's next drive, pick 6. Oh my God. It was just a nightmare for San Diego State. And it was just so bad. I don't really even need to say what else happened. Every drive that Air Force had resulted in a touchdown. Every offensive drive that Air Force had resulted in a touchdown. And that pick 6 was basically the cherry on top. So San Diego State was straight up horrible. This makes the UCLA loss a lot less painful. But I knew Air Force was going to be really good. I just didn't think that San Diego State would be this terrible, dude. And San Diego State needs a good running back. I'm just gonna scream this to the heavens. Stop trying to get Jalen Maiden killed. I mean, yes, they did have a better run game as Keenan Christon. He had 58 rushing yards, which is good. 58 rushing yards. At least it's not Jalen Maiden having to freaking put the team on his back in terms of rushing yards. But still, San Diego State has practically no offense whatsoever outside of a little bit of Jalen Maiden flash plays. It's really, really disappointing as the team stats was just altogether disgusting. San Diego State had a grand total of 227 yards altogether, while Air Force had 476, which is bleh. San Diego State was 4 for 13 on third downs. They almost had as many fourth down conversions as they did third down conversions. Air Force was practically clean in terms of penalties. San Diego State only had 5 penalties, but it was for 34 yards. And that pick 6 was the only turnover that San Diego State had, which was the only interception thrown. So, altogether, it was just a horrible game for San Diego State. And if you're an Aztec fan, you have every right to be frustrated at Brady Hoke and his team. Brady Hoke. I don't know what his last name is pronounced, but you have every right to be frustrated at this offense because what are you doing with this offense? Like, you have no run game. Your basic... Did you even... I actually want to see who was their leading receiver. Did they get... Oh, Mark Redmond. Their leading receiver, Mark Redmond, good job to him. He had 27 yards. 27. You have literally zero offensive flow and rhythm. I don't know who your offensive coordinator is, San Diego State, but I'm just going to say this. Please, for the love of God, have a better game plan. You just can't be short on talent. You just cannot be short on talent in terms of your roster. San Diego State does not have shortage of talent in terms of its offense. So you either got to get your you-know-what together, or you're going to get treated as the doormat of the Mountain West or everything altogether. This is just straight up sad, dude. Getting blown out 49-10. That's disgusting, dude. 10 points, and your leading receiver had 27 yards. And your run game is still practically non-existent. 105 rushing yards. Good Lord have mercy. If I'm a San Diego State fan, I'm wondering what the heck am I looking at? And I'm wondering if this team could actually beat San Diego. Okay, that's a little too harsh, but still, San Diego State football is a straight up joke. In terms of the FBS, they made UCLA look more competent, and they were starting a freshman quarterback. Good Lord have mercy. But then again, they tried to get make you feel good games, scheduling the likes of Ohio and Idaho. And keep in mind, Idaho is a FCS school. So, thankfully for San Diego State, they have a bye. So, I don't have to deal with this crap again. So, no offense to the players, of course. But the fact that San Diego State is literally putting up stinkers is just straight up frustrating. And I'm not even a San Diego State fan. I just feel horrible that San Diego State, I have to basically talk about this. It's like talking about them in a funeral. It's like they just died and then died again and then died a third time. Anyway, so San Diego State, after their bye this week, is back at it as they hit the road to the Big Island to take on Hawaii. That's going to be a fun one. Hawaii's actually much improved, even though San Diego State always seems to get the better of the Rainbow Warriors. That will be previewed on next week's show, if there is a next week's show. If not, then maybe I'll just preview it the following week. Well, actually, no, there is no following week. Come on. So, regardless, I'm hoping I can... I'm not sure if I'll have a show next week, but time will tell. Alright, but that is going to do it for the college football portion of the show in terms of the FBS. In terms of the FCS, let's just say San Diego and Cal Poly didn't fare any better. Let's just say the Toreros and the Mustangs didn't really have their greatest week, as San Diego wound up losing to Davidson. No, not Davidson Crooks. They lost to Davidson 55-33 as, oh man, San Diego's... I'm just going to say this about San Diego. Their quarterback is pretty solid. Grant Sargent, he had 408 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Now, if only the San Diego defense knew how to actually play defense, as, I don't know, I think the Toreros defense took a page out of the Chargers defense, run defense, as they allowed Mari Adams to have 169 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Mason Sharon was also a key in the run game for Davidson, as he had 114 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Oh, and Coulter Cleland had 130 rushing yards. Seriously, San Diego, did you sculpt your run defense after the Chargers? What in the world is that? Oh my God, that's probably the worst run defense ever. San Diego as a team gave up 449 rushing yards. 449 rushing yards. That is just rushing yards altogether. In terms of the entirety of all of Davidson's offensive yards, they gave up 557 yards. 557. Ugh. And their quarterback, Davidson's quarterback, didn't even have more than 90 passing yards. What the heck? And meanwhile, San Diego didn't even bother to have a run game as their passing, they had 408 passing yards and only had 63 rushing yards. But then again, I'm guessing San Diego got in such a big hole that they had to abandon the run game and had to just start throwing the ball to stop the clock and whatnot. That is just straight up bad. Come on, San Diego. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm no San Diego fan. I'm no San Diego expert, but that sucks, dude. Alright, but San Diego, just like its FBS counterpart, San Diego State, it has a bye, and hopefully San Diego's coaches can teach its players not to use hazing so they don't get suspended. But San Diego is back in action on Saturday, October 14th, when they hit the road to play Marist, which heaven knows what's going to happen. But I'll save that preview for later. But as for Cal Poly, they actually had themselves a nice little Big West Conference matchup, except not really, as Cal Poly football took on UC Davis. And while I was hoping for a massive upset, it didn't happen, as Davis took down Poly 31-13. As Davis, let's just say Davis is pretty good at this football thing. So unfortunately, Cal Poly was in over their heads when it came to trying to, pull off an upset, as they were down 24-0 in the second quarter. The game was pretty much decided by then, and sadly, it wasn't going to get any better. As Cal Poly is back in action this Saturday as they host Idaho, I hope for Cal Poly's case they can win that one, but Idaho is 4-1, so maybe Cal Poly can put up a good fight, but I just don't think it's going to happen, just because those Vandals are pretty darn good. I have Cal Poly losing that one, let's say 34 to 20. 34 to 20. That sounds about right. Alright, but that's going to do it for the college football portion of this show. Let's just speed on through the MLS portion, as LAFC got back on track as they took down Minnesota earlier in the week. As they took them down on Wednesday, they won 5-1 at home, which was great, as BMO Stadium was rocking, which certainly was better than their Sunday matchup, as LAFC lost to Real Salt Lake 1-0, which at that time, Real Salt Lake actually jumped to number 2 in the Western Conference. But because Real Salt Lake doesn't have consistency, LAFC was able to jump them. I'm just kidding. Real Salt Lake does have consistency. The only problem is that Real Salt Lake has a goal differential of -2, and they're actually in the top 4. Ew. Anyway, so LAFC, yeah, they are back in the top 3 of the Western Conference, which is good. And like I said, their matchup against Minnesota, this one was decided in the first half. Even though they gave up a first half goal to Hassani Dodson in the first 4 minutes, LAFC was able to strike back early and often, as Dennis Bwanga actually scored the next 3 goals. And then LAFC managed to get a goal off of an own goal from Minnesota. And then Philip Yavarov Karastev scored for LAFC in the 67th minute. And that's how LAFC was able to win 5-1. The Real Salt Lake loss was not good, as that eventually hurt LAFC in the standings. Even a tie wouldn't have been bad. But now LAFC is kind of seeing Real Salt Lake on their coattails. So Austin LAFC only has 2 matches remaining, as LAFC has Austin this Saturday in Austin. They have Austin FC, and then they close out the regular season against the Vancouver Whitecaps on October 21st, which is big time right there, which for Vancouver, well, Austin is kind of nearing the border of probably not going to make the playoffs, but it is what it is. Vancouver, on the other hand, they still have a chance of making it into the top 2. So that would be huge for Vancouver if they wound up running the table and even beating LAFC. But that's not for another few weeks. As for the Galaxy, their season is pretty much almost over, as they host Minnesota this Saturday, and then the Galaxy hit the road to the Twin Lakes, the Twin Cities, as they take on Minnesota, and then the Galaxy host Real Salt Lake on Saturday, and then the Galaxy host FC Dallas to close out the regular season. At this point, if the Galaxy manage to run the table and they get help from all across the league, which would also include, well, I don't know, San Jose basically stopped playing soccer, and Dallas stopped not playing good soccer, and Austin losing, and Sporting KC losing, and Minnesota losing left and right, then maybe, hence the word maybe, the Galaxy have a chance. But I'm not going to hold my breath to that just because the Galaxy straight up stink. It's just been a horrible year for the Galaxy, but it's almost over, Galaxy fans. And then, jumping over to the NWSL, alright, well, you have to get this one out of the way. So, Angel City wound up losing its first match since early June, as they wound up losing to Orlando 1-0 last Monday. So they got to play Monday Night Football, but unfortunately, they could not win at BMO Stadium, as that loss really hurts them, because Orlando is also in the race for that final playoff spot as well. But Angel City isn't really out of the playoff race. However, they're going to have to run the table, as they're going to have to start a new streak, as Angel City hits the road to play Houston this upcoming Sunday, and then the following Sunday, Angel City hosts Portland, which could possibly decide their playoff fate. And for their sake, I'm hoping they can get the job done, because if they can't, then it'll basically be curtains for their season. And only the top 6 teams get to the playoffs, as Angel City currently is in 9th place, while OL Reign currently occupies the final playoff spot, while Orlando is right behind OL Reign. But honestly, Angel City is going to need to really run the table going forward, because one win for Angel City and then one loss for OL Reign, and then I guess one loss for Orlando can really swing the momentum back to Angel City for possibly getting into the playoffs, as Orlando takes on Louisville, and then OL Reign, they take on Washington, which Louisville, they're not really out of the playoff running, but they need a lot to go their way. And then for Washington, they're trying to improve their playoff positioning, as a win for them could definitely jump them up as well. So keep an eye out for OL Reign and Washington. And then as for San Diego Wave FC, they managed to bounce back in a big way, as they took down the Portland Thorns last Saturday, taking them down 2-0 on the road. And that was a huge win, as San Diego not only is in first place in the NWSL standings, but they actually punched their ticket to the playoffs, which was awesome. So San Diego will be representing the Southern California in the NWSL playoffs, as Wave FC's next matchup will be against the North Carolina Courage, and I'm hoping for Wave FC's sake they could take down the Courage. If they could get that number 1 seed, that would be even better, but they're only 1 point ahead of Portland, and North Carolina is not too far off from San Diego as well in terms of the NWSL standings. And then San Diego closes out the regular season against Louisville, so let's see what happens with San Diego. But San Diego is in the playoffs, and they are going to be dancing. There was some uncertainty with Wave FC, but they got the job done, and they are in the playoffs. So that's that for all of the NWSL portion. Let's take ourselves a little bit of a commercial break. When we come back, we'll just discuss a little bit of some MLB action, and then we'll have Dum Dum of the Week, as well as a few little Big W awards. Keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello everyone, my name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely do check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Heart of Texas Sports and the Extra Mile, as well as Let's Whine About Sports. Let's Whine About DMV Sports will be going live later today at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. As poor Mike Pat, let's just say he won't be a happy Washington Commanders fan, but I digress. But on that note, let us get on back into the second half of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, as we won't go too much in depth in terms of the MLB, as the Angels are pretty much out, and, well, the Padres are unfortunately out as well. Well, actually, the Padres were out. It's just that it was just a matter of when they were going to be out. But all in all, the Padres, they had only like a slim chance of making it to the playoffs anyway, as their season is pretty much over. But at least they ended the season on a high note. They swept the Chicago White Sox, as last Friday they won the first game 3-2. And Saturday they won 6-1, and then they won the final game in dramatic fashion 2-1. So, all in all for the Padres, even though they had such an ugly season with a lot of underachieving, they did finish on a 5-game winning streak, and they finished above 500. Even though that team had a lot of talent on that team, and I am very, very surprised they missed the postseason, San Diego still had a fantastic season, as they finished 82-80, which I guess is some silver lining. And you also have to remember that Fernando Tatis Jr. had his suspension from this season and whatnot, which carried over from last season. So I gotta give a little tip of the cap to the Padres, even though, and they made their playoff race a little bit interesting. Unfortunately for them, they just straight up wet the bed, and they just got off to such a slow start to begin, and sadly, they just disappointed altogether. They kind of remind me of the 2010 Chargers team, which basically had a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense, but had very bad special teams. And it sucks because that team was also phenomenally good, but wound up missing the playoffs. But it is what it is sometimes. That's just sports. So that's that for the Padres, unfortunately. I don't really need to go too much in-depth on the Angels. Do I really have to go in-depth on the Angels? No. As they actually took 2 out of 3 against the Oakland Athletics. Soon probably going to be to Las Vegas, probably. As they wound up winning the first game 5-1. Lost last Friday. Last Saturday they lost to the Athletics 7-3. And the final game of the regular season, the Angels wound up winning 7-3. So, at least the Angels ended on a high note. They probably should have just let fans in for free. As Patty Bax pops in the chat room, he said she just made it, or she made it, she just finished work. That is awesome to hear. Great to have you in the chat room, Patty Bax. Thank you for tuning in previously. Patty Bax is the host of our Buffalo show. She goes live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, which she does an excellent job with the Buffalo Huddle. Anyway, so that is that right there for the Angels. But the Dodgers are the only team from Southern California that made the playoffs. As in their final games against the San Francisco Giants, they managed to take 2 out of 3 against the Giants, which was basically a walking funeral home, as they took the first game last Friday 6-2, and then lost the second game 2-1 last Saturday, and then closed out the regular season with a 5-2 win over the Giants, which basically gave them their 100th win of the season. So mock the Dodgers all you want, but it's still very tough to win 100 games in a season. So I'm very impressed by the Dodgers and how they continue to be very consistent. But now they have to actually get their you-know-what together when it comes to the postseason. Regular season does not mean anymore. As the Dodgers have finally found out who they're going to be facing. As they found out who their opponent is following the wild card round, as the Dodgers are set to host the Arizona Diamondbacks tomorrow at the Chavez Ravine in Dodger Stadium. So Game 1 is on Saturday at 6:20 p.m. Pacific Time. Game 2 is on Monday at the Chavez Ravine or Dodger Stadium at 6:07 p.m. Game 3 is going to be in Arizona on Wednesday at 6:07 p.m. Pacific Time. Game 4, if necessary, is in Arizona. That will be on Thursday at 6:07 p.m. Pacific Time. And then Game 5, if necessary, heaven forbid, the Dodgers play the Diamondbacks, which would be at 6:20 p.m. Pacific Time at Dodger Stadium. So here's the thing about the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks have done a lot, hence the word a lot, to try to get to the playoffs. And it's been a long time coming for the Diamondbacks. It looked like the Diamondbacks were going to have a late season collapse and miss the playoffs. And then before that collapse, it looked like the Diamondbacks were going to win the NL West. And then the Dodgers surged, and then the Diamondbacks, like I said, they almost had a collapse. And then, fortunately for them, the Giants collapsed, and then the Padres crumbled, and then the Diamondbacks eventually made it to the playoffs. And honestly, I'm happy that the Diamondbacks made it to the playoffs. I'm just sad that they now have to play the Dodgers, and hopefully this time, unlike last year, the Dodgers can actually put away the NL West foe. Because if you remember last year, the Dodgers unfortunately wound up losing to the San Diego Padres, which the Padres eventually wound up making it to the NLCS. So this time it has to be different, Dodgers. You actually have to show up, and you actually have to play some darn good baseball. But their pitching is really shot down. Tony Gonsolin's out. Julio Urias is, well, let's just say he might have thrown his last pitch as a Dodger. Walker Buehler is done for the season. It's just going to be an uphill climb. And the only really good pitchers that the Dodgers truly have are Clayton Kershaw and Lance Lynn. Maybe they have a few other hidden gems, but honestly, it's going to be very tough. I want to say the Dodgers can still win the World Series. You don't want to count them out, but their bats are really going to have to come alive. And that's on the account that their pitching doesn't make the other team's bats give up a whole lot as well. So for the Dodgers, they're going to have to really, really show up in their series. And they're just going to have to really play their greatest baseball they've had in a while. But all in all, for the Dodgers, I'm hoping they can get the job done against the Diamondbacks. If they do, then they would play the winner of the Braves. Yeah. They play the winner of the Braves-Phillies series. Yeah, Braves-Phillies. I was about to say, who was on the other side? It was Braves-Phillies. Braves-Phillies is on the other side, and then this side is basically Dodgers-Diamondbacks. So it's going to be a fun little divisional round, and I'm hoping the Dodgers don't collapse. Otherwise, we're going to be getting a lot of memes going forward, just because the Dodgers they're running on fumes in terms of their pitching. But I'm confident that they can maybe, hence the word maybe, squeeze out some sort of life in terms of their arms in their playoff run. But that is that for the Dodgers right there, and I think that's pretty much it in terms of all the SoCal sports happening. There hasn't really been anything too late in terms of the Lakers and Clippers. I mean, they just started preseason, yes, but we're not really ultimately interested. I'm not really too into preseason. Yes, LeBron James isn't playing for the Lakers in preseason, but it's just preseason. Like, you're not going to lose sleep over LeBron James not playing. But all in all, I digress. But that is going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. Before we head on out of here, we have to give out the Dum Dum of the Week. So, first and foremost, the Dumb Dumb of the Week goes out to someone that basically does or says something dumb, which no one is safe from this award, and anyone can get this award, whether it's myself, whether it's my neighbor, whether it's an organization. No one is safe from Dumb Dumb of the Week. And unfortunately, I kinda, hence the word kinda, have to give myself mini Dumb Dumb of the Week to myself, because I kind of forgot to put initially the 4-year anniversary special in the title of my show. I just still titled it like the normal title of Set Point. So for those of you that don't know, Set Point just celebrated its 4-year anniversary special, which was awesome. So last Monday, I just celebrated 4 years of Set Point, which was really cool. And I forgot to indicate that it was my 4-year anniversary special. I forgot to put in parentheses 4-year anniversary special, which is kind of a brain fart on my part. I just normally titled it Set Point episode 214 colon. Then I put For the Love of Volleyball, which is basically, if you don't get the pun, it's for, like the number 4, but spelt out, and then the love of volleyball, like for the love of Pete and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm a little bit of a dum-dum for accidentally forgetting to do that, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not indicate it, but it's just one little mistake. I eventually edited it, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a big deal, but I feel silly for accidentally not putting it being a 4-year anniversary special. So I'm the mini Dum Dum of the Week. I'm sorry if I unfortunately could not remember to put 4-year anniversary special in the title, but that's on me. All right, now I was gonna have a Dum Dum of the Week, but it's so tough to really call this person a dum dum. So, as you all know, I work in retail, and honestly, customers accidentally do things that kind of set you off or like basically make you facepalm. So I want to say this was like last Sunday. I want to say it was like last Sunday or last Saturday, where a customer, I'm not a checker, but she went through the check stand and then she decided to purchase items. She purchased items and she was going to buy it with her boss's card. But she actually had 2 transactions. One transaction was going to be her transaction, and the second transaction she was going to use her boss's card. So here's where you know where this is going, right? So you're probably wondering where this is going. So the first transaction, she basically buys everything. She buys some groceries and whatnot, and then she also buys a gift card, which has a maintenance fee of like $4.95. And here's the thing about buying gift cards. Once you buy a gift card, you can't return it. Even if you haven't used it, even if you haven't left the building, you cannot return gift cards. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The only way you could really return a gift card is maybe if it is a fake gift card or it just doesn't work. Which has happened to me before. Which I to this day I still don't understand why. And I told that to a CVS cashier and he just looked at me funny. I'm like, yeah, I kind of had a feeling you'd look at me that way. But anyway, so the customer, I kind of feel bad for her, but I kind of don't. She unfortunately used the wrong card, and she said, I used the wrong card. I'm sorry. Can we refund this? So she used her boss's card, and the cashier basically had to basically said she could refund all the grocery items, but not the gift card. And she basically had to spell it out for her that she could not refund the gift card. And the customer was basically saying, I haven't used the gift card. I haven't left the building. I can't get a refund on the gift card. It's like, no. Once the gift card has gone through, you can't refund it. It's activated. It's all yours. You screwed up. So eventually, a manager had to be called. The store manager had to be called, and bless the store manager's heart. He basically said the same thing. He's like, if I could, I would, but that is company policy, and you just can't go back. The only way you could really turn back, basically take it all back, is if you could turn back the hands of time, which would force you to create a time machine or rip a hole in the space-time continuum. Which, if you do that, well, then we will be seeing cybernetic dinosaurs taking on dinosaurs to see who rules the earth. But I digress. But, oh my god, this customer, it was so frustrating having to deal with that. And I wasn't the one that was dealing with that. It was basically the cashier. This is why I gave up checking, because I don't want to be part of that mess to begin with. It is very, very frustrating. It's like, oh my god, lady, it's not the cashier's fault that you decided to be a klutz and use the wrong card. You should have been paying more attention. If it were me, I would have told her that. But I would not. I would have held back on that. And I would have just told her that altogether. I would have just said, it's not the cashier's fault that you used the wrong card. You need to actually be paying attention to which card is which. Good Lord have mercy. So eventually, the cashier just returned everything in terms of grocery, put it all back on the card. She had to re-ring everything up, put it on the actual card, the actual debit card. And then, hence the word then the second transaction went through. And I will say this about the customer. She did apologize, and she said, I did not mean to do this. And it's funny, but she used the word accidentally. I can't speculate on if this wasn't on purpose or whatnot, but when you use the word accidentally, it's either you did do it or you didn't mean to. So, thank you, Patty. Patty says the best thing ever, and this is Big W award material. She says, it doesn't cost anything to pay attention. Oh my god. Best pun ever. And that is absolute facts right there. It does not cost anything to pay attention. So, my good golly gracious. And at least the customer was nice about it. At least she didn't go flipping out and saying, get the manager out of here. I'm going to get killed by my boss. And at least if she at least needs to have a legitimate excuse. She just needs to say, hey, I accidentally spent money on your card, and can I just Venmo you the money? Because accidents do happen. So instead of giving her the dum-dum of the week, because people accidentally use cards, but you do have to pay attention to detail. And honestly, this actually happened later on in the day, because another customer accidentally said, oh, I used the wrong card. Can we do the whole thing over again? But this time, unlike the whole thing, she just said, okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. She didn't make it. This next customer, a while ago, after the one that made the whole scene, she just said, okay, that's my fault. I'll just go on and leave. She didn't make a huge scene of it. So that's the reason why I can't give this customer who accidentally used her boss's card to buy the gift card Dum-Dum of the Week. So I can't give her Dum-Dum of the Week, but I can give her an honorary award. Instead of giving her like mini Dum-Dum of the Week or Dum-Dum of the Week, I'm going to give her the No-No of the Week. So to this customer who kind of had to basically get the manager involved, and who was making that cashier's life a living nightmare in terms of, refunding everything and having to explain that you can't refund a gift card because that gift card is activated. You get the no-no of the week. So, my man who is basically running the whole dum-dum of the week, you're going to have to take a backseat on this one. But your first no-no of the week goes to the customer who thought she can get away with maybe getting a refund on a gift card, but she wasn't.
No. 1 year deal. No. 19 million.
Oh, wrong one. I screwed up. Hold on.
No. 1 year deal. No. 19 million. 1 year.
Yes, I have. That is my new clip for no of the week. So, if I deem something that isn't really dumb, but is noteworthy of kind of being on the borderline of dumb, I have to give it the no of the week. Because you got to be paying attention. You really just have to be paying attention. And I know that defeats the purpose of having dumb of the week, but honestly, you just can't be that absent-minded, especially with your boss's card. If that is like a valuable card and the boss isn't lenient, then you could be skating on thin ice. So hopefully that boss did forgive the employee that used the card on the gift card and just said, can you just Venmo me the money and whatnot? So, or just have it taken out of your pay and whatnot. So, like, things happen. I understand things happen, but yeah, you just can't let it happen. But now we have to get on into the dumb of the week. So, I failed to make note of something when it came to the Chargers-Raiders game. And, oh man, this was something that I did not want to have to bring up, but I have to bring up. So, in the Raiders-Chargers game, let's just say a former Charger wants to so-called lay down the wood on Justin Herbert. So, if we all know who Jerry Tillery is, let's just say he was a complete bonehead. As he did a bonehead thing against the Chargers as a member of the Oakland Raiders in last Sunday's game against the Chargers. So, as Justin Herbert was attempting to run out of bounds, Justin Herbert eventually got out of bounds, and then Jerry Tillery just came running after him, and right as Herbert got out of bounds, Jerry Tillery gave him a big old dirty hit out of bounds, and the ref eventually flew the flag, and the entire Chargers defense basically went after Jerry Tillery. Yeah, Jerry Tillery, you done messed up. First and foremost, if you know Jerry Tillery, he is well known for dirty plays and dirty hits. He's done this ever since his Notre Dame days. I remember when Notre Dame got the brakes beaten off of USC, he accidentally stepped on, I think it was Juju Smith-Schuster's ankle or foot. It was his foot or his ankle. And he basically said, I apologize to Juju and whatnot. And Juju Smith-Schuster even said, please stop going after Jerry Tillery. He didn't mean to. Let's all be good. Let's all have good Juju and whatnot. So, but this time, Jerry Tillery cannot be forgiven. Look, I understand Jerry Tillery was trying to make a football play, but this is the most bonehead play ever. The dude was trying to... I understand he was trying to make a play, but the dude practically whammed right into Justin Herbert. And fortunately for Herbert, he did not get hurt. He just popped right back up, and he just avoided any sort of conflict. But for Jerry Tillery, that entire Chargers defense was basically having their back. Like, the entire Chargers sideline swarmed all over Jerry Tillery. And even Keenan Allen said, what the F are you doing, Jerry? And look, I understand defensive players are trying to make defensive plays, but that was just unacceptable. It was a late hit. Herbert already got out of bounds, and honestly, that was just a straight-up dumb play. And eventually, Jerry Tillery got ejected for that dirty hit. So, Jerry Tillery, I'm sorry I have to do this to you, except not really. First and foremost, you were a disappointment with the Chargers, as you eventually got the hook when it came to the Chargers. But this is another bonehead play for you, as if I remember correctly, we all remember correctly, Jerry Tillery slapped the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands after the Raiders got a big sack, and when the Raiders played the Rams last year on Thursday Night Football, and then that eventually was an unsportsmanlike penalty, gave the Rams a fresh set of downs, and eventually allowed the Rams to go down the field, score the go-ahead touchdown, and get the Rams the win, which eventually cost the Raiders the spot in the playoffs. But it all didn't matter anyway. So Jerry Tillery continues to be a bonehead. He continues to be a knucklehead, a dum-dum, ding-dong. You can call him whatever you want, but Jerry Tillery is this week's Dumb of the Week for basically laying a late hit on my quarterback, which was unacceptable. I know you're trying to play the game of football, but that is not how you play the game, mister. You should be ashamed of yourself, Mr. Notre Dame dirty boy. You dumb of the week.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I'm sorry, but that's just unacceptable. And I don't know if Jerry Tillery posted an apology saying, "Oh, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to attack Justin Herbert and whatnot." But honestly, yeah, no, he hasn't posted an apology. Yeah, and this is from like forever ago. Gosh dang it, Jerry Tillery. Maybe he posted one on his Instagram and whatnot. But honestly, I'm just so disappointed in Jerry Tillery. The fact that he laid down the wood and tried to lay that dirty hit on Justin Herbert, shame on you. And I have to give out the big W award to the Chargers defense and the Chargers sideline for coming to the aid of Justin Herbert, because I think that could be the turning point to what brings the Chargers closer as a team, because I want to say the Chargers straight up, were a little bit, I wouldn't say they were divided, but I will also just say there was some sort of like miscommunication and whatnot. So I'm glad the Chargers sideline did come to Justin Herbert's aid in defense, and I'm glad they didn't want to attack Jerry Tillery, because if they're attacking Jerry Tillery, they're no better than Jerry himself. So good job to the Chargers sideline for coming to the aid of their quarterback. But I also have to give out dumb of the week to the Chargers front office, because I also failed to mention this as well. J.C. Jackson is also not on the Chargers anymore. He is back with the New England Patriots because, well, J.C. Jackson just sadly did not fit the Chargers' defensive scheme. Thanks, Brandon Staley. As the Chargers straight up traded J.C. Jackson and a late round draft swap. So basically, the Chargers got the Patriots' 6th round pick for this year, and then the Patriots got the Chargers' 7th round pick. So basically, the Patriots got J.C. Jackson back for nothing. And the Chargers are still eating up on J.C. Jackson's contract. So, Chargers, I hope you're happy with spending all that money on a player or a cornerback who, had only one interception in his 2 years. I do admit that J.C. Jackson had a rough year as, I feel bad for J.C. Jackson. He had a rough first year with the Chargers, season-ending injury, but the dude just did not make an impact. And he also just had a bonehead play, which basically gave the Miami Dolphins a field goal at the end of the first half of that Miami Chargers game of this season. So I hate to do this to the Chargers front office, and no, this is nothing against Tom Telesco. I love Tom Telesco, and I know his wife and his kids, but I'm just going to say this. You spent your money on J.C. Jackson for nothing, and you're eating up his contract. I hope you're happy with yourself, because of that, the Patriots got J.C. Jackson back for absolutely nothing. So you're this week's Dumb of the Week as well. So great job, Chargers front office. And great job, Brandon Staley, for not making J.C. Jackson a perfect fit for your offense.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
At least the Chargers got the win, and the Chargers can focus on drafting an actual cornerback in the NFL draft this upcoming season. It's either going to be the Chargers draft corner or they draft offensive line. But that's just straight up unacceptable that they just are eating up over $80 million worth of cap space, and the Patriots got him back for practically nothing. So, nice work, Chargers. Way to make me face palm on that one. Oh, well. Note to self, kids. Don't go all in when it comes to a player, and if you do, make sure you get back something a little bit better than just a late round pick swap. Oh well. But on that note, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is high time that I get on out of here, because I got to get on to my second job. Yeah, dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. My man, It's Drewski, just popped into the chat room. He is the host of our Dallas-Fort Worth show, Heart of Texas Sports, a.k.a. The Hots. You can catch him live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Central Time. Big shout out to him, Patty Becks, and Davidson Crooks for popping into the chat room. It really means a lot. I'm not sure if I'll have a show next week because I might be covering some pro beach volleyball, so keep an eye out for the Set Point Twitter account, or X account, as well as the Set Point Instagram account. But I will hopefully try to squeeze in some sort of episode, but we shall see. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Be safe, be well, don't do anything stupid, pay attention to detail, don't, go crazy and try to get your way just because you're not at Burger King, and all that sort of thing. Regardless, have a great weekend. In about 17 more minutes, the Carolina Cast with John Felipe will be coming on. And also check out the Sports Couple Perspective, as well as Let's Whine about DMV Sports later on in the night. Have a great weekend, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace! And go Dodgers, baby! Viva los Dodgers!